What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. I am the Poetic Killer, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Saturn um, through all the houses. Yeah, Saturn through all 12 houses. So Saturn in the first house. Now, like I said, first house has to do with your personality, your aura, and also your physical representation that you give out to the public. So Saturn in your first house, we usually manifest into situations where you're restricted within your actual personality. You cannot be your true self sometimes around people. And like Saturn takes 30 years. So it's gonna take you a Saturn cycle to master how you can be able to be more structured in your personality, more structured in the way you physically look. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times it might manifest where if you have Saturn in your first house, you could have some form of disability, some physical disability, because you're restricted physically. You know what I mean? It's like something that people can see from the outside looking in. So you might have some form of disability, whether a minor or major. And also, you might be in situations where you're forced to be in a certain location for a very long time, and you cannot really move out of that precise location. That's having Saturn in your first house. So you have to sometimes learn how to master how to not really restrict your personality, restrict who you are and how you perceive yourself to the outside world, but more like structure it, where you come up with a physical goal where you can actually, like, let's say what's the word called, where you write mantras, where you have multiple mantras that you can recite, that can physically, you can physically plan that into your mind, that can actually make you more structured when you're showing your personality to other people. You know what I'm saying? So that's Saturn in the first house. Now we got Saturn in the second house. Saturn in the second house would be some form of restrictions in terms of your values and the items that you own. So there's some form of restriction there where you have to learn how to manifest a situation where you need to learn how to be more disciplined with what you value. You know what I'm saying? You have to learn how to be more disciplined with that. So you manifest a lot of times where you're having chaotic situations with what you own. You might lose it, you might find it here and there, like it's always misplaced. You know what I'm saying? That situation happens, so you have to learn how to be more structured and more organized when owning your values. Also, in terms of second house, it can manifest where it's like you're restricted in terms of your money system. So it takes you a longer time to actually manifest in terms of finance, because second house has to do with Taurus, values, some form of physical exchange, while Libra is more of a mental exchange. You know what I'm saying? Is that Venus energy, but different uh expression. So Saturn in the second house, you have to learn how to be more organized there in terms of your values and in terms of your finance, in terms of things that you're fixated on, in terms of what makes you feel stable in life. So you might have a restriction in what makes you feel stable in life, and you might have to find ways to bring that stability back again into your life. And you might have to restrict certain people and environments for you to be able to manifest that in your life. Saturn in the third house. So if you got Saturn in the third house, you have some form of restriction in terms of your mental uh, perception, or you might have some form of restriction within your city or your local surroundings. So let's say like you're going through war, and you cannot really leave that boundary because the other side is, also engaging with the other side. So you might be restricted in terms of your traveling. You know, also, like, let's say if there's like some form of health situation, and they need to you know put some form of barrier in a city to clean up the city. That's another way that can manifest in that. So you're always in some form of restriction in terms of your surroundings, or also some form of restriction in terms of your speech. So you might stutter a lot in life, or you might have some form of verbal disability. You know what I'm saying? And you might be restricted in that, and you might have to go through speech therapy to manifest you being able to speak more structuredly. You know what I'm saying? So you might have to learn how to be more structured with your thinking, or how to be more structured with your speaking. So having Saturn in the third house can also have like some form of mental blockages. So whether you overthink a lot, or you forced yourself to mentally block out certain memories, from your experiences, just to escape that trauma. There are many ways that that can manifest. Also having, yeah, just some form of restriction within your local surroundings. So that can also happen too. And you have to learn how to also think outside the box and not always be so, um, how would I say the word? Like, so not prudent, but like very one sided. You know what I'm saying? You have to be a bit more open minded. And yeah, that'll be more Saturn in the third house. So that takes 30-year cycle that you'll need to manifest. I mean, you'll need to learn how to master in your life. Then we got Saturn in the fourth house. So you have some form of restriction in terms of your emotions. You can be very restricted in your emotions. So you might be very cold hearted, I guess. And that could be based on experiences, from a childhood, because everything with Saturn usually starts from, as a young age to your 30-year mark. And that is one cycle of Saturn. And it's like a lesson you learn. Your Saturn gives you lessons. That's what I've realized in terms of Saturn. You learn a lot. Once you reach a Saturn return, you actually learn a lot and you're actually more mature. Um, yeah. So Saturn in the fourth house, you might have some form of restrictions in terms of your living conditions. So you might feel restricted within your living condition, within your family. You might feel like you cannot do certain things when you're around certain people within your household. That's what Saturn in the fourth house manifests. You know what I'm saying? And it might be very frustrating for you because you might feel like you need to be more open. But you could also restrict yourself where you purposely take yourself into a different room and you purposely do that where, let's say you're in a marriage and the marriage is no longer a structured or a strong foundation. You guys might agree to living sleeping in separate rooms, you know, for the rest of your life because Saturn is very long or for a very long time. So that could manifest too. Or you're living amongst other family members, and let's say your one of your siblings has a partner and they're living with you. So you might not feel like you can fully be yourself around this type of people. So like that's how it manifests with Saturn in the fourth house. And also you just being feeling like you cannot emotionally open up to people. That can also manifest too, having Saturn in the fourth house. It's like there's no emotions. It's just straight work and structure and discipline. You know what I mean? That's Saturn in the fourth house. Um, so yeah, you have to learn how to unblock that structured chakra of your heart chakra. Learn how to be more structured with it, and eventually you'll learn how to be more disciplined with your emotions. Um, then we got Saturn in the fifth house. So with Saturn in the fifth house, you have some form of restrictions in terms of your creativity, or some form of restrictions in terms of your expression, or you might have some form of restrictions in terms of your relationships and how you like express yourself in gamble and take risk in life. So you don't really like to take too many risks. You don't really like to express yourself like that out there. You kind of restrict yourself in that situation, and you like to be more private. Um, you also were restricted, like within your childhood. You feel like your childhood was restricted. You know what I'm saying? Because fifth house has to do with that inner child. That Leo energy, that playful energy. So you having Saturn there, you manifest actually having like very, very, very I wouldn't say rough childhood, but like it was very there was no form of nurture there. It was just straight, you know, I'm trying to find the word for like Saturn energy. It's very just rugged and structured. And having Saturn in the fifth house, it really kind of Capricorn doesn't Leo doesn't do well in Saturn because Leo wants to be free. Leo wants to express itself. Leo wants to be the main center stage. Leo doesn't want to be structured into a box, you know, and only come out when it's told to come out. Leo wants to be free to do it when he wants to, and he wants to be fixated on doing that. That's all he thinks about. So having Saturn there, it kind of is a demi down to a Leo because it feels like a Leo cannot be its true self. And every time a Leo wants to be itself, he wants to express that inner child. You want to be creative, you want to be charismatic, you restrict that. And that started usually from your childhood. So you grow up very cold. I wouldn't say cold hard, but you act very nonchalant, having Saturn in your fifth house. You act very nonchalant. But you have to learn how to be more structured. You have to be very hard on your creativity. You have to be very hard on your inner child. And when I say hard on your inner child, I mean hard for it to express. You have to be, you know, Capricorn. You got to be stable on that. And the more you can um, spark ideas on how to be more grounded in terms of your creativity and your inner child, the more it will feel more natural, and you won't feel like you're having blocks and natural blocks and blockages with that Saturn energy in your fifth house. You know what I'm saying? But you can also manifest making a lot of money also because it's Capricorn energy based on your creativity, based on your expression. You know what I'm saying? You can also do that because it's cardinal air there. Sorry, cardinal earth. Um, and also you can be known for that because it's Capricorn status. So you can be known for your creativity. That's a status that can be something that can be known. Okay. Now we got Saturn in the sixth house. Saturn in the sixth house will be some form of structure or restrictions within your daily routines and your daily patterns, the daily routines and things that you do as a ritual. Or it could be also some form of restrictions in terms of your nervous system, some form of restriction in terms of your your inner health. You know what I mean? Your like physical biology in terms of like it working properly. There's some form of restriction there. So you might need supplements. You might need different type of surgeries just to help it work and function again. Having Saturn in your sixth house. So you easily get sick also. Because Saturn is showing you the harsh realities of the sixth house. That's what Saturn always does. It likes to show you the harsh realities of things. It does not like to sugarcoat things. Jupiter likes to sugarcoat. I wouldn't say sugarcoat, but it likes to dream things away and act like it's not there. That's why it's always escaping. It does not want to, you know what I mean? It wants to escape from that. So by it escaping, it kind of distracts itself or removes itself from that situation, from that sphere of reality, and goes into a greater one. And actually, now Jupiter can experience what it needs to experience because that initial surface or atmosphere was not conducive for Jupiter. So Jupiter had to expand because it was bigger than that. While in terms of Saturn, Saturn is like, hey, this is the reality, and you just have to deal with it. So here it is. Show me how you're going to deal with it. That's what Saturn is. It's like just it throws it out. It's like throwing a baby into a pool of water or into a swimming pool, and seeing if the baby can float on its own. You know what I'm saying? So it's based on just dealing with life and dealing with the harsh reality of things. So it Saturn being in the sixth house, that can happen. But you can also build on your health and you can actually make money off your health. So this can manifest a lot of like health gurus, uh personal trainers, things like that. You know what I mean? You make money off, or also like people that sell different minerals and make money, like pharmaceutical companies. They would have like that Saturn in the sixth house type of energy, where you make your stability off different type of health products. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Yeah. So that'll be Saturn in the sixth house. You have some form of restrictions in terms of your routine. You know what I'm saying? You cannot do your routine the way you want to do it. It's like restricted. Um, so you have to find a way to build on that and create a healthy routine that you can actually feel more stable in, and also you can be stable in terms of your body and your nerves and your health system. And yeah, you're not restricted in your job. Also, you have to learn how to build it on your own. Now we go Saturn in the seventh house. So Saturn in the seventh house. That is having some form of Saturn does well in Libra though. Saturn does because it has to do with stability, and usually Libras stability is something that they do well in. Even though they're cardinal air, but I would say um seventh house, having Saturn in the seventh house, you're going to be more either restricted in terms of your relationships, or you're going to have to build on your relationships. um you would have to learn how to be more structured also, because initially your relationships are going to be very chaotic, and you have to learn how to be not so impulsive to jumping from relationships to relationships, because Libras like to do that because they're cardinal air, right? So it being cardinal, everything that's cardinal is always usually like it's like that. It's like a spark. Sparks don't usually last that long. You know what I mean? So you have to keep igniting that spark. And then while the fixated energy is the spark, you know what I'm saying? You can actually see it. While the mutable can choose whether it wants to be the spark or the actual flame. And that's how it goes. But every cycle is needed. You know what I'm saying? Every aspect is needed. But yeah, Libra having Saturn in the seventh house, you have to learn how to be more structured in your relationships. You have to learn how to be more structured and restricted sometimes in terms of your relationships. And that's going to manifest. You're going to be restricted in your relationships sometimes. You're going to be restricted in terms of you being able to have one on one partners and one on one businesses. You know what I'm saying? But initially, once you start learning that and you reach your Saturn return, you should be able to build on that and learn how to build and be actually very stable and structured, because Saturn has to do with structure also. So if you learn the right way to do things, you'll be able to be more structured and more stable in your relationships. You know what I'm saying? And the restrictions you create will be healthy boundaries. You'll learn how to create healthy boundaries within your relationships so that you can have a stable relationship. And it won't be one that is where the scale is not balanced. You'll be able to have a really good balanced scale. Because to able to build, you need balance. You cannot build without balance. You know what I mean? Everything needs to be balanced for you to be able to build. And that's where that Saturn and Capricorn energy comes from. So yeah, that's Saturn in the seventh house. You have to learn how to be more stable, and structured in your relationships. Learn how to create healthy boundaries. You're gonna manifest sometimes restricted relationships where you have to be alone until you find that comfort in that, and then you'll be able to manifest someone where is that meets you on the same level, and you guys can actually create that balance scale and actually keep building on that. So yeah, that's seventh house. Then we got Saturn in the eighth house. Saturn in the eighth house, right? Um, is okay. Saturn in the eighth house is okay. Is restricted. Either you're restricted in terms of your the way you merge energies with other people, or you have to build on merging with other people. You have to build on that. Either you're going to be restricted from that, or you have to learn how to build on that. So by you learning how to build on that, you will learn how to actually, because also eighth house has to do with learning how to build, merge with yourself, because still it's eighth house energy. It's still Martian energy co-ruled by Pluto. And Martian is all about the self. You know what I'm saying? And it's still fixed water. So by you having Saturn in your eighth house also has to do with death and rebirth. So you're gonna have harsh realities of different death and rebirth. So you're gonna go through a lot of transformation in your lives over your 30-year cycles. So you going through this death and rebirth and transformation through your 30-year cycle, you're gonna witness a lot of death, whether physically or internally. So a lot of things are either gonna kill you inside in terms of like you transforming into something more, or either way, transformation is always something more, whether you perceive it as good and bad. That is subjective, but you're still transforming, and you're always going to transform. You know what I'm saying? And this is where Saturn shows you the harsh realities of transformation, and you can also learn how to build on that, where you can learn how to build yourself on how to transform into something that is stable. You know what I'm saying? And your transformation can also bring you some form of status. You know what I mean? That's what you want to learn how to do. Because eighth house, sorry, 10th house energy, Saturn has to do with status also. So you want to learn how to bring some form of status into something that is unseen. You know what I'm saying? And when you learn how to bring some status into something that is unseen, then you'll be more structured. You know what I mean? So you have to learn how to build, you have to be comfortable and learn how to build on your form of transformation. And all things taboo, because Pluto is taboo. So you have to be structured on that. So having Saturn in the eighth house is like having Mars in Capricorn, like I was doing or Mars in the 10th house. These type of people can also shut off their form of connection internally or merging with people and just keep it straight business. You know what I mean? That's what happens sometimes. Like they restrict that form of merging with other people's energy mentally and emotionally, and just keep it straight physical. So it's a physical merge that can happen. So they can choose if by having Saturn there, where they can just physically merge with people and have no form of emotional and mental connection to it, or they can build on that and be very serious about that with someone else and building that up. You know what I mean? But it usually goes hot and cold because it's Saturn there. Either you're building it or you're destroying it. So yeah, you can have some form of restrictions in terms of merging with other people, fully, truly connecting with people on a deeper level. You know what I mean? You're always gonna feel like, yeah, you'll be the type of person where it's like you're amongst people, but you don't how does the saying go? Where you're in a crowd full of people, but you still feel alone. Something like that. Where you don't feel the full deep merge with people, or you choose to restrict yourself from merging with people like that on a deeper level and only on a physical level, or you restrict yourself from merging with someone on a physical level and only on a deeper level. That's how it goes sometimes. Or you could have both if you know how to balance both aspects. Yep. But yeah, you have a status in like or some form of job in terms of death, rebirth, taboo things like sex, or so like either you're like working like as a grave digger, or you work in the mortician. You know, you analyze people's autopsy, things like that, or you're like a sex worker, or you're someone that is well known as a forensic scientist because you're uncovering something that is unseen, um, or like a well known detective, something like that. You know what I mean? So it's Saturn like that. Yep. Saturn in the ninth house. So if you have Saturn in the ninth house, you have some form of restrictions in terms of your traveling physically, you being able to travel, or you have some form of restrictions being able to expand your mind and seeing things from a deep, from a greater level, or you have some form of restrictions in terms of how you can like teach. You know what I mean? How you understand things from a different perspective. You have some form of restriction there, and you have to learn how to build on that. You have to learn how to build on expanding your mind and finding some form of philosophy to life, or else you're going to be forever lost. You know what I'm saying? So having Saturn in the ninth house, you have to learn how to build on that. You have to learn how to, you know, build on traveling because that might be something that you might like to do, you know, but you might be restricted on that initially. So you might want to travel either physically or mentally. Um, so having Saturn in the ninth house, you're gonna really realize that okay, I feel restricted in traveling, but eventually, once that 30-year mark reaches, you would have enough knowledge and wisdom in terms of experiences to know what to do on how to travel either physically or mentally. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to go through a lot of experiences with people and harsh realities to show you how you need to expand your mind. And the reason why you're finding a lot of difficulties in being able to see other perspectives is because you're not expanding your mind. You know what I mean? Or you're not expanding traveling. You're not traveling enough, and you're very restricted in the mind. You're very rigid. You know what I mean? And ninth house has to do with other worlds. So even in terms of like your dream, you might not your dreams might be like very turbulent. You know what I mean? You might have a very turbulent dreams sometimes because you have some form of restrictions in your ninth house. You don't know how to travel your mind. So your dreams are usually very like short. But once you learn how to master that Saturn energy, your dreams will start to expand and you'll really make a lot of status and stability and even money from your teaching. You know what I'm saying? You could actually make a lot of money from your teaching, having Saturn in your ninth house. If you learn how to be in the right atmosphere, if you learn how to be in the right zone and be around the right around the right people, you can learn that. Or you can be restricted in that. And you can restrict yourself from that. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to always learn. That's you're here to learn how to be expand the mind. You need to learn how to be more open minded and open experiences, and you can build on that. Then you go Saturn in the 10th house. So yeah, those type of people can be preachers. They can be philosophers. They can be historians. You know what I'm saying? They can even do documentaries. There's a lot of things with Saturn in the ninth house. They can, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with that, but you have to learn how to build on expanding. You cannot restrict yourself, or sometimes you might have to restrict yourself from traveling. You know what I'm saying? All the time. So it goes both ways. Sometimes you might have to restrict yourself from doing these things, or you might sometimes have to build on these things because you're lacking in them. You know what I mean? But anyway, Saturn in the 10th house. Yes, Saturn 10th house is it's home here. So which is perfect. So you already know how to um have that discipline. You already know what to restrict yourself in so that you can be able to build on what you need to build, right? You already know what you need to implement as structure in terms of physicality or business minded ideas where you can know what to do, right? That's Saturn in the 10th house. Um, so you come with, it's not really like, it's like you already, it's like nepotism. You already have some form of structure within an environment that is already structured. You know what I'm saying? So you're kind of like provided with that, and you just have to learn how to be, how to master that, and how to embody that, so that you can be able to carry that on and further, and pass on that cycle. That's like Saturn in the 10th house, you know. There's some form of restrictions also within your business. There's some form of restriction within your status. You might feel restricted there. You know what I mean? You might feel like that's all you have to do. And you might want to do something more. You know what I'm saying? So it can feel like that sometimes. But if you learn how to be more structured in terms of your status and what you want to be seen as to other people, and do it in your own unique way, but still have some form of status and still build on that, then everything will play out fine for you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Saturn in the 10th house does well because it's home there. So it's pretty good over there. Um, so yeah, you could, Saturn in the 10th house can be people who are already like, yeah, business minded, like CEOs, people who are like, what's it called? That create different companies and corporations and things like that. They're the type of people that like that work in the stock market, you know, things like that. They're the type of people that will be Saturn in the 10th house, or and have some form of discipline, but they might be restricted sometimes within their status and within what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And they might need to find ways to be more structured in that, to do something else. Um, yes. Then we got Saturn in the 11th house. Saturn in the 11th house also does well here too, because Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn. And Aquarius is co-ruled by Uranus. So having Aquarius here is realizing that Saturn in the 11th house, you have some form of stability, but it's in a unique way. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna go through a lot of situations where it's Uranus energy. So you're gonna go through a lot of situations where initially you might be restricted in your form of innovative ideas or innovative connections with people, because 11th house has to do with the masses and the people that you're connecting with. So you might have some form of restrictions there in meeting these people. But once your 30-year cycle reaches, then you'll be able to have the opportunity to be able to build on those people, build on those associations that have some form of uniqueness to them. You might be restricted initially in seeing these people, but eventually you will have the energy to be able to no, sorry, you have the stability and the status and the structure to be able to reach these people and network with these people and connect with these people, because they'll have that Uranus energy also with them. You know what I mean? And that's the type of energy you want. But you might be restricted initially with these type of people. Um, and it might manifest where it's like you're in situations where you grew up where you're not allowed to be with certain people because you know your parents told you not to. You know what I'm saying? So you might restrict yourself from that 11th house energy from the masses. You know what I'm saying? You like to be homebody a lot, but sometimes it might be too much, and you might restrict yourself sometimes, or you might be physically restricted, and it's not your fault. So it goes both ways. But yeah, you have Saturn in the 11th house, so eventually you have to learn how to build on your associations and make sure that these associations people are unique people. You know what I'm saying? And the more unique they are, the more you will actually be able to manifest status and finance and things like that. Yes, Saturn in the 11th house people, I guess, will be people that know how to network. You know what I'm saying? They know the right structured way to network with people. So they know the right people to talk to. You know what I'm saying? That's that Saturn in the 11th house. They know they're business minded, and they have that business minded energy within the people that they know. But sometimes there might be some form of restriction there, and they might have to have that restriction there. You know what I'm saying? From certain people. Um, but yeah, either they restrict themselves on purpose, or they associate themselves with the right people to build on a new status, because it's still Saturn, but it has Uranus there. It's just the way that they might have a restriction, might be people that are unique, and eventually they'll meet these type of people. You know what I mean? Saturn in the 12th house. If you have Saturn in the 12th house, you have some form of restriction when it comes to your dreams and illusions and imaginations. So you might manifest not dreaming a lot, you know what I mean, when you're younger and things like that, till you reach 30 and your dreams starts to become more vivid. You might also manifest a lot of restrictions when you're by yourself. You know what I'm saying? You might feel like restricted to really think, properly when you're by yourself. You know what I'm saying? You having Saturn in your 12th house, it's like your subconscious mind is like blocked. You know what I mean? And you're not really allowing it to be free. You're not allowing your subconscious mind to be free. You're not allowing your imaginative mind to be free. And you might feel like it might show the harsh realities. You might manifest a lot of experiences that show the harsh realities of what it means to be giving in terms of your energy and the people that you're merging with. You know what I'm saying? Because it has to do with your ending and the ending. That's what 12th house has to do with. So if you have Saturn in your 12th house, it's like you have some form of restrictions in terms of your end, like of your ending. So if you have, like, let's say, a retrograde there, you had a very harsh ending in your life. You know what I'm saying? But if you have Saturn in the 12th house, you just have to build on your creativity. You have to build on that imaginative side of you. You have to build on your dream. You know what I'm saying? And you have to build on your empathy. It's just a lot of times these things might be restricted from you. Either people restrict that from you, or you restrict that from yourself, and you restrict having empathy onto other people. You restrict having some self-sacrificing energy to other people. You know what I'm saying? You might have to restrict that because people took that for granted. You know what I'm saying? So having Saturn in your 12th house, it's going to show the harsh reality of being self-serving. Sorry, not self-serving. Being people serving of your energy. It might show the restrictions and why you need to restrict that. You know what I'm saying? And people might restrict that from you. They might restrict giving you empathy and giving you that form of self people energy. So that's how Saturn in the 12th house goes. Or you might block yourself from your creativity. You might block yourself from your imagination. You might block yourself from that form of exploring the unknown. You block yourself from that. You know what I'm saying? Or you might be the type of person that is locked away in prison, because 12th house has to do with prison and um, isolated areas. So if you have Saturn there, you might be locked up in prison. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That can happen too, because Saturn has to do with 30 years, a long cycle. So you might be restricted in that area. So you have to be very careful sometimes and learn how to structure your imagination, structure your subconscious mind so you don't do crazy things. You know what I'm saying? You want to learn how to be disciplined within your subconscious mind. And the more you can do that, the more you'll be more creative, and you will have new innovative ideas and new innovative imaginations to, bring something into this world. And you can make a lot of money from your art. You can make a lot of money from your creativity. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that can be very good for you. So, and also because it's the 12th house, subconscious, certain people might have the harsh reality of being delusional, because 12th house Neptune, you could be very delusional. So you have to learn not to be also be too logical within your subconscious mind because it's Saturn. So you restrict yourself from your creativity. You have to build on that. Actually build on your creativity, not build on delusion, aka lost into the world. Build on your creativity, lost into your mind, and bring that into the world. And when you do it that way, then everything will be more aligned. But yeah, guys, that is today's video. That was Saturn through all 12 houses. Next video, I'll come up with it on the spot, and we'll go through the next planet. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it right now. We'll do Jupiter. We're gonna do Jupiter throughout the next 12 houses. So until next time, guys, I'll catch you soon.